What's going on, everybody? Off the Mike Sports Network here. Yeah, just reacting here to the college football playoff rankings. I haven't really addressed this a lot, and it's gotten really interesting with Miami now in at 10-2, a very impressive finish to their season after having a couple losses there in the middle, losing to Louisville at home, losing to SMU on the road, and ultimately, hey, they had a couple of impressive wins down the stretch in cold weather on the road at Virginia Tech. Which Virginia Tech's not that great of a team, but also on the road at Pitt, and a lot of people thought they were going to lose that game. I give credit to Miami for finishing the season the way they did, but what we need to address here is, listen, there's still in Hunter Yurchek, the Arkansas athletic director and the new CFP committee selection chair, who took over for Mack Rhodes after all the controversial stuff that went on with him, seemed to imply that if certain things happen, and let's say BYU again gets clobbered by Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game, and Notre Dame now dropping to 10, Miami is at 12. They could be within one spot of each other in the final rankings. Is that the point where Miami gets put into the field? And all these Miami people who have been stumping and politicking and trying to advocate, because very validly, that in week one Miami beat Notre Dame, should they be in? Now, first of all, the fact that we're even having this discussion is ridiculous, in my opinion. Miami's no question in my mind, one of the 10 most talented teams in college football. Maybe one of the 5 most talented teams in college football. They've got an elite edge rusher in Ruben Bain. Malachi Toney, their wide receiver, is unbelievable. Carson Beck, while inconsistent, is a very talented quarterback. And then they had Cam Ward, the number 1 pick last year. And in back-to-back seasons, not only has this team gone 10-2, but they aren't even playing for their conference championship. So, do I kind of feel bad for Miami to be in this position? Sure. Because, hey, the team that they beat head-to-head and have an identical record with, and head-to-head is supposed to matter in a lot of these things. The team that they beat head-to-head in week 1, and for a large chunk of the game, was beating them pretty handily, and then they got a little bit close near the end. That team is ahead of them and has been convincingly in the playoff for most of these rankings, despite Notre Dame losing the first 2 games of the year and basically playing nobody. Their best win is against USC, who's 18 or 19 in the middle of the road in the rankings. They're hanging on because their 2 losses are by a combined 4 points. But one of those teams is a team that they're ranked ahead of. But it's hard for me to feel sorry for Miami fans when in back-to-back seasons you are clearly far and away the best team in the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC. And because of your losses and certain shit, and this is an ACC conversation as well, you're not even playing for your conference championship in back-to-back seasons, which is an automatic bid. And 7-5 Duke has a chance to win the conference championship game and absolutely shut your entire conference out of the playoffs. That's where we are right now. So Miami has nobody else to blame but themselves. Don't lose to Louisville. Don't lose to Louisville at home when you're 5-6-0. Don't lose to SMU and turn over the ball a million times. Don't have to resort to, down the stretch of the season, having to convince everybody that you're one of the best teams. We knew that, but you lost 2 games. So while I do feel bad, and I think that there is a very, very, very compelling argument that they should absolutely be ranked ahead of Notre Dame because they beat them and they have the exact same record. And this is going to be a really interesting conversation to have if BYU does lose to Texas Tech, because then that's going to move them within one. The way I look at this ranking, and I didn't say this in my overall, overarching thoughts about this, I'm not necessarily convinced that Notre Dame's in regardless of what happens. Because let's say BYU loses convincingly. I mean, even if they if they lose convincingly, they'll definitely drop out of 11. And then Notre Dame is right there at 10-11. So not only, I don't think Notre Dame fans should feel safe at all But at the same time, the fact that we're even having this discussion, this shouldn't be up for a discussion. Miami was one of the best teams that we saw all year. This is a product of their coach is not a very good coach. I like Mario Cristobal and the energy that he brings and the passion that he brings to Miami because he was there in the glory days. He did a lot of great things at Oregon, but one of the things that this guy has never done is make a playoff when he's had supremely talented teams. He had some great teams at Oregon. He had Justin Herbert for years. He had Cam Ward, the number 1 pick last year. But to not play for a conference championship in a conference that is not very good in the ACC and a 7-5 team, yes, this is a flaw of, the whole system and, the realignment that we see in college football. But to not be playing for your conference championship when you could easily have the result of that, that's the easy solve for this whole thing. You're clearly one of the best teams, but you left it up to chance. You lost a couple of games in your league, and that's the reason why you're sitting on the outside looking in right now. Don't leave it up to chance. That being said, I think it's a very compelling argument, and if not a really, convincing argument, that Miami should be in this playoff, and we'll see what happens if BYU loses. But the fact is, what the committee did in this last rankings is, one, they protected Alabama's ass because they don't want to hear from Greg Sankey about Alabama being left out of this playoff or being at risk, even remotely at risk if they were to lose to Georgia. I don't know how that game's going to look. They already beat Georgia on their field. They're effectively playing on the road at Georgia again, although Alabama fans travel pretty well. So playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, should be kind of a neutral. It should be a neutral game. It's supposed to be, but Georgia's closer to there because it's in Atlanta. Atlanta's not far from Athens. But yeah, Miami not playing on conference championship weekend when they're clearly the best team in their league. Like I said, it's Virginia and Duke. It's Virginia and Duke. Duke, like I said, Duke has 5 losses and could win a Power 5 conference championship and not even make the playoff. That's where we are. So if you ask me, gun to my head, what I think is going to happen here, especially considering what could be shaken out with everything that has gone on and the ACC potentially being just outright left out of the playoff, I think that there is a realistic possibility here, a very realistic possibility that, and maybe because of brand recognition, Notre Dame does win out, and that's kind of shady in its own right. Miami's got a brand, but Notre Dame is also Notre Dame is Notre Dame. What I think is going to potentially happen here is if BYU does not win the Big 12 championship and everything holds the format, Texas Tech beats them again, beats them handily, and Miami and Notre Dame are ranked 1 spot within each other, I could totally, and then let's say Duke wins the ACC championship. I think that there is a very realistic possibility that Notre Dame gets left out in that scenario, and the ACC gets an at-large bid, not an auto bid. And we see 2 group of 5 teams get in. And if that happens, holy shit, the amount of Notre Dame people are going to be livid. Because remember, Notre Dame did not guarantee themselves anything because they are an independent team. Does that make Notre Dame join a conference at that point? I don't know. But this was supposed to be really a Miami video, but it's really about this Notre Dame conversation as well. And I'm fascinated to see how this is going to shake out because I don't think it's set in stone that Notre Dame is going to make the playoff, no matter what happens with BYU and Texas Tech. I think Alabama is going to be safe. Miami might have an argument, but the fact is Miami shouldn't have been in this discussion at all. They were clearly the best team in their league. The fact that they're not playing in their league championship game is a joke. It's a reflection of, and you Miami fans should be evaluating, is Mario Cristobal the guy? This guy went 5-7 his first year, 7-6 his second year. He was 10-3 last year, so a 10-2 regular season and another 10-2 regular season. And in both of those seasons, with the number 1 pick, and who knows if Ruben Bain may be the number 1 pick in this upcoming draft, you may have back-to-back number 1 picks where you don't even play for your conference championship, let alone get into the college football playoff. If you're a Miami fan, you got to be asking some other questions, not like why aren't we in the playoffs? Why are we putting ourselves in these positions? Maybe it's because your head coach isn't that good. He's an okay coach. He recruits very well. But coaching is not just recruiting and not about acquiring talent. It's about winning games on the field. And Mario Cristobal, going back to his days at Oregon, has proven that he's an underachiever. Miami should absolutely be in this thing, no questions asked. But the fact that they lost 2 games and aren't playing for their conference title, that's why we're having this discussion right now. And if they get left out, they got nobody but themselves to blame. I understand that they beat Notre Dame week 1, but this shouldn't be a discussion. Don't lose to Louisville and don't lose to SMU on the road in overtime. It's a double-edged sword, man. That's the way these things work. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.